Entrepreneurship, Chapter 10, Creating Revenue Models. What is a revenue model? Ability to generate revenue. Identifying how a company would generate profits. Bottom line, this is how people stay in business. If you have revenue, profits, this is how you stay in business. But there's multiple ways to do it. There are many ways to do it. And we're going to talk about that in this chapter. What is a revenue model? How much will customers pay? How many customers? Revenue generated through sales. How much does each stream contribute? So when you're looking at revenue models, these things are very important. How much will the customers pay? Are you undercharging? Are you overcharging? How many customers do you have? Do you have enough customers to actually make a profit? Generate revenue through sales. Are you making enough sales? Generating enough sales? How much does each stream contribute? When you look at a lot of businesses, what they'll have is multiple revenue streams. Money's coming in different ways, not just one way. And so you have to look at that to figure out exactly how much each stream is bringing in. And ultimately, sometimes you'll look at it and say, you know what, I have 4 revenue streams. 3 are profitable. 1 has never been profitable, and you may ultimately choose to drop it. What is a revenue model? Different models have different streams. Affects who customers will be. So when you look at the different models, they're targeting, they have different purposes. But most importantly is they will look at who affects who the customer will be. Different types of models will determine who the customer will be. So let's look at the revenue model. Let's look at the unit sales revenue model. So we'll look at that. Measures revenue based on units sold. Retail business rely on this model. So when you see this, that's what they're looking at, units sold. This is how they track things. All those different items are considered to be units. And this is a retail business model type. And whether you're looking at Target, Lowe's, Home Depot, the grocery store chain, whatever else, this is the model that they will use. Advertising revenue model. So revenue gains through sales of advertising. So for instance, magazines, newspapers, digital world, dependent on attracting traffic, influencer ventures. Now that's something that's big, particularly now with the internet and people making money and making their livings with online type stuff. You see influencers. But this is really big too. And this goes way back when we think in terms of just sales or looking at through catalogs and magazines, regardless of what it may be. So we have a data revenue model. This selling data assets also increases with AI data marketplaces. So this is where people are actually selling information. It can be raw information or it can be very detailed information, but they make their living selling information. And I'll give you an example. A lot of us people have things like credit cards and bank accounts and stuff. Well, you find that a lot of these places, they sell your information. And you find people that gets this information, and what they do is they sell it and market it to generate revenue. What is a revenue model? Intermediation revenue model. Methods, third party use. Brokers organize transactions, connecting people with service. This is plain and simple. This is when you have someone who is like the middleman, a broker, a middleman. What they do is they connect a business or a product to a customer. That's how they generate their revenue. They are a middleman person, and that's what they do. But the best way to look at that is really looking at the broker. That's what brokers do. That's how they make their living. And brokers are in all types of industries. Revenue model, licensing revenue model, selling permission to use intellectual property. So, technology innovations often so when you see this, like patents and trademarks, copyrights, intellectual property, things along. This stuff is like intangible things you can't touch or feel, but these things are actually they exist in the business world. Like I said, we think of copyrights, patents and trademarks. Franchising revenue model. Owner sells the right to use the name. Franchise to provide support. Give you a prime example, McDonald's. You can buy into McDonald's franchise and pay a fee, I think it's about $1 million. And you can buy a franchise, they'll get you in, they'll set you up, and they will provide support for you. And then you will go into a partnership with them where they make a certain percentage of your sales each month. Subscription revenue model, charging customers for access, traditionally used by magazines, newspapers, used by growing numbers of companies. So when you think in terms of subscription, give you one of the ways I look at this is like streaming services. Charging customers for access to their streaming service. That's one of the easiest ways to look at it. You see, this is something that's popped up now and it's very big. Professional revenue model, provide services on time, materials, and contracts, i.e. consultants, lawyers, attorneys, people who provide specialized services, regardless what they may be. This is a revenue. They provide a service. You, in turn, provide them with money. They trade their service for money. Utility and usage revenue model. Charges based on use. Fee for data, storage, use. Okay, right off the top of your head, what comes in mind? Your electric company. This is exactly what we're talking about. Electric company, the gas company. This is exactly the model that they use. Generating revenue for free. So this is something that's fairly new. This is where you actually see freemium model become more popular. Mixing free with upgraded services. So when I think about this, a lot of times I'll use this example again. Streaming services. They can offer you a basic package, but they offer you some free stuff to try to upgrade, to upsell you to something else eventually. Give it to you for 30 days free. Okay, well, you're like, well, I got a good deal for 30 days. But after 30 days, you're paying for it and they're making more revenue as a result. Continuation of two versions of tiers of products. Basic version has limits, higher end paid versions, earning money through some part of the business. So we just talked about that. So when we see direct cross subsidiaries and cell phone companies are an example. This is where they give you a product and this pricing the product or service above its market value to pay for the loss of a product that they give away. So I'm going to give you something for free, but I give you a cell phone for free, but you're going to pay for that cell phone through your monthly service. Now, you still think you got it for free. You didn't. You're paying for it through your service. And that's how they market it, free. And people like the word free, but in reality, we're not getting it free. We're paying for it. We're not paying for it on the front end. We're paying for it on the back end. Influences, revenue, and cost drivers. Influences on who customers are. Deep understanding of what drives customers. So when you look at this model, important because you have to understand what's driving the revenue. This determines who your customers are, because depending on how you drive it and how you market, whatever, it's determined on who your customers are. But you got to have a deep understanding of what is actually driving the revenue. So what is it that they're actually buying? What is it when you look at driving revenue, you got to understand this for the profit. What drives the customer? What does the customer do that drives the revenue? A deep understanding of that. Because give you an example. Let's say that you know what your customer is, you identify them, but you don't understand exactly how they're spending the money or how to actually get what it is you do or provide to that customer. That means you don't understand the method in which they would consume it or purchase it. And so that's going to affect the revenue. Revenue drivers, customers and purchase frequency, selling price, processing price, actively test assumptions. So when you have customers coming in, revenue drivers, customers and purchase frequency, you want to know who, what, when, where, and why about the customer. Who the customer is, when they come in. I'll give you an example. Not only, and this is a marketing thing. Not only do you want to know who the customer is, you want to know who the customer is, what time of day they come in, what hours do they come in, which way do they walk through the store. That's traffic flow. Because, for instance, if you had something you needed to put out on the shelf, you want to be at the front of that traffic flow, not on the back. How often do they purchase? Selling, process, and price. How are you selling to them? The price in which you're offering to them. And if you have assumptions about something, for instance, you think that customers may pay, let's say that you think that you're actually selling something too low. Well, you can always experiment and test your assumptions and say, I think I can charge 50 cents more, $1 more, and see will they pay it. And if they will, you were correct. And if they don't, your assumption was wrong. And all you have to do is adjust for that back down to what the regular price was. And we've seen this numerous times where organizations have made mistakes where they've actually went in and done something like price adjustment, change product, whatever, and made assumptions, and they found out their assumptions were wrong, and the customers demanded that they undo it or fix it and take it back, and they did. Cost drivers, cost of goods sold. So this is when you look at the cost of goods sold, basically a direct cost of producing a product. What does it cost you to produce this? Operating expenses. This is your overhead. What is it going to cost you to keep your doors open if you have a storefront? To pay your electricity, your water, your power, your cable, your phone, whatever else. All those are operating expenses. Okay, you got an income statement, profit and loss statement. The income statement, profit and loss statement, this is going to be looking at your revenue and your expenses over a certain period of time, usually looked at, like, let's say, over the course of a month. And so that gives you an idea of what your profit is and what your loss is over the course of a month. Pro forma income statement, this is what you believe you could make. This is when you guess or you speculate what you may make over the course of a month. Depreciation is when you're looking at like your equipment and how much does your equipment depreciate over the course of time. And if you have that, at some point in time, it'll depreciate to the point where you're no longer carrying it. And when you look at amortization, this is dealing with like intellectual property, trademarks, and copyrights and patents, and over the course of time. The revenue associated with that, and also the depreciation associated with that. So here's the income statement again. Operating profit. So you look at this. This is what you have left over after you've paid. After you look at your revenue, cost, and your expenses, and you subtract that from it. Interest expense and taxes. So this is when you have a good indicator of your debt. So this is stuff that you have to pay out. So this is actually debt that you have. For instance, you have interest expense that you would pay on equipment that you may be leasing, your building that you may be leasing, and taxes that you may have to pay associated with those as well. Your net income is what you have after you've subtracted. This is what's got you left over after all the costs. After I spent all the money to pay all the bills and pay all my people, suppliers, whatever else, this is what I got left. My net income. How much do I have left at the end of the month? And comparing statements over time. By doing this having this income statement over time, you can actually go back and look. Remember I said that you look at the income statement, you look at that, it's usually done over the course of a month. Now you can go back and look over each month to see what the expenses were and what the income was and what the profit is. You can do that. If you keep that system, you can know exactly what you have. You can provide it to your accountant to prepare your taxes as well. Pricing can be high or too low. Pricing strategies. So there are multiple pricing strategies. So if you price something too high, you might drive customers away, and they may boycott and stop buying it. If you price it too low, you're losing money. You're not as profitable as you should be. Create consistent revenue streams. So when you have consistent revenue streams, you have a good idea how the money's coming in each month, how it's coming in each week, each month. Opportunities for repeat business. This is how you stay in business. Look for the opportunities for repeat business. You want to develop a group of loyal customers. Satisfy their needs and give them what they want at a fair price, and they become your customers and they come back, repeat business. That's what ultimately keeps you afloat. You have other business that'll come in that'll be sporadic and periodically, but it's the repeat business that's going to be old reliable that'll keep you in business and even during rough times. Plan pricing strategy. Your pricing strategy, when you look at, you plan it, you want to make sure that you're actually doing something that actually is consistent with the market. Pricing strategy that makes sense to the customer and profitable for you. Pricing products and service. No right way to the determined strategy. There is no right way, no wrong way. There is a way that works for each particular business. And nobody can say definitively what that is. I hate to say this, but it's almost like you don't know until you try it. Prices adjust based on demand. Prices adjust based on demand. Well, supply and demand. If there's a big supply for something, and if there's a big demand for something, prices will go up. If there's a slow demand or a low demand for something, prices go down. That's just how it's always been. The market dictates. It's always been that way, and it always will be. Understanding your brand and carrying your thing through packaging and marketing. Understanding your brand. Know who you are. Know who you are and know what it is you do. And stay true to that. Don't try to be too many things to too many different people. Stay consistent with your brand and carry your thing through packaging and marketing. Basically, what someone sees through your marketing on the internet is what they see when they come in your store, is what they see if they see a flyer, what they see if they get a text message from somebody. This is consistent, your thing right there. Now people associate that with your business versus having all these different things that you're doing and you don't have don't carry the theme through. Well, it kind of affects your identity. So when people see it, they don't associate that with your business or your product. Different types of pricing strategy. So you have competition-led pricing. So this is basically when you make your price based upon what the competition out there, your competitors, are doing. Customer-led pricing is when you look at it and you ask the customers what would they be willing to pay. So that makes, and that's very important because they're, like we said, if you price too high, they won't come back. They won't purchase it. So loss leader is whereby a business offers a product or a service at a lower price in an attempt to attract people into the door, to get them in. Introductory offer is when it's actually something that's actually a reduction just to get somebody to purchase something. For instance, I'm offering a service that normally costs $80 a month. Right now, for introductory offer to get people in, I'm letting it go for $30 a month. Well, that's just to get them in. And that's for 30 to 60 days. And after that, it goes up to 80. Different types of price. So when we look at skimming, this is, and I know it sounds like something what we associate with skimming traditionally, but it's different. This is high pricing strategy generally used for new products or services when they don't have a lot of competition. So you can price it high when you don't have a lot of competition or very little competition. Psychological pricing is you price something when people they think that they're getting something at a good deal. So that's your psychological pricing. When you look at fair pricing, this is when it's at a good point for you, a good selling point for you to make profit, and a good point for them, the consumer. Bundle pricing is when you put together some price, and I'll give you that. I'll use, for instance, you hear this a lot, like with cable service. You'll find with some cable services, what they'll do is they'll bundle the cable, the internet, and the telephone and some other things together and give you a bundled price. So they offer multiple things and they bundle it together. And when you bundle it together, you as a consumer get a lower price because if you bought each one of them individually, they would be much higher. Ways to calculate profits. So when you look at ways to calculate profit, there's so many different ways to do it. But at the end of the day, one of the easy things to look at is look at your profit. Ensure that you're making a profit. Look at how much you're spending with overhead. Look what it's costing you to manufacture. Look at what you're bringing in at the end of the month. What do you have left over? What is your net? And you always want to ensure that you're making a profit. And you break even. When you think about break even, this is when, this is where you look at how much it's costing you for revenue and overhead and everything, and also versus your sales. So based upon that, I'm not making a profit, but I'm breaking even. So what usually happens is that this is normally how business goes. Initially, when it starts, it's not profitable. Then you get to the break even point. And then from there, the goal is to get to the profitable point. Cost-led pricing. So this is, when the costs involved in manufacturing or delivering a product or service, and all the expenses that it costs to make it and produce it and market it. And when we think in terms of the target return pricing and stuff, so this is a price based upon the amount of investment that you put into your business. I'm spending a lot of money into my business, but how much am I getting back in return? My target return business. And the value-based pricing is just simply pricing your product based on how the customer will buy it and they benefit from it. Basically, how much value is in it for the customer? If they value it, they will buy it. If they don't, they won't. Plain and simple. That ends chapter 10.